Is it normal to be thinking all the time? Is it normal to be thinking, a majority of the day about, the future and what is going to happen, and then just be in a consistent state of fear about things that haven't happened? Like, is that normal? Because I don't think it's normal. I think that society accepted it to be normal and that we're so used to these thoughts, but in reality, there's nothing normal about it, and it's actually pretty insane. And it's pretty insane that it's normal in our society to be in a consistent state of fear and worry and anxiety, and then regret about the past, and then to be disconnected from this deeper part of us that we all have access to. I don't think it's normal. I think that it's something that we've accepted to be normal, but in reality that there's a deeper part of us that we can all connect to that goes far beyond the limited thoughts in our head and the limited ego structure that we've developed through the conditioning of society. Because there's a deeper part of us that goes far beyond the fear and the worry and who you tell yourself that you are. And I think that if we just had a little bit more awareness that it is possible to connect to the present moment and let go of these fears and let go of this conceptual baggage that we're all holding on to, that would be a much better society. Because people don't understand, in my opinion, what it really means to be present to the moment. It sounds like such a simple concept, and this word just gets thrown around very loosely, and we're just, we tell ourselves, just be in the moment. But what does that really mean anymore? What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you to be present to the moment? Do you even know what it actually means to be present to the moment? Like, do you even know how deep the present moment goes? Like, do you know that it's possible to get to a state of consciousness where you have absolutely no fear and no worries, and you can become so focused on what you're experiencing that you have no more thoughts in that moment, and that you won't necessarily be living in this state of consciousness 100% of the day. But do you know that this state of consciousness is possible? Do you know that it is possible to enter a state where you're so focused and you're so ingrained in the present moment, and you're consciously doing this, that you're doing this on purpose? This doesn't happen on accident. Do you know that it's possible to be so focused on the activity that you're doing and to be connected to the inner energy field of your body and the sense perceptions of what's happening, that you're going to have absolutely no thinking whatsoever? Because it's very normal in our society to, just be stuck in the content of our mind all day, right? To just be worried all the time. I don't think it's normal. Do you think it's normal? I think it's pretty insane. I think it's completely insane. And if you actually to observe the thought patterns, you would find yourself that it is insane. And you won't have to take my word for it. Because when you start to actually observe the content in your mind and see it as what it is, which is just content, you'll find that it is pretty dysfunctional. It's very dysfunctional. And it's not anything that's dysfunctional with you. It's just that the mind has been conditioned in a way that is very dysfunctional. So it's just the mind. It's the mind and the conditioning that the mind got from society. And it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. We don't need to be in a consistent state of fear and then trapped in the content of our mind. We can actually be free of this. We can be free from the content of your mind. How does that sound to you? How does that sound to you to be not taking the content of your mind so seriously? Does that sound like something to you that you would want to experience? Because it is possible. And this is what I always teach my clients. It's what I always teach in my videos. It's what I always teach, anybody that I'm in contact with, and to be of service in that way in any form possible. Because the content of your mind doesn't have to be controlling every single action that you take in life. Because a lot of us are taking action from a place of fear that is derived from the content in our mind. And we don't realize that. We don't realize that the content of our mind is actually controlling a lot of the actions that we take. We don't even realize it. We don't even realize that most of the decisions that we make are completely grounded in a foundation of fear that comes from the content of our mind. And it's actually disconnected from reality. Because there's reality, and then there's the content of the mind. And these are two different things. These are two different things. People don't realize that these are two different things, but they're completely separate. In a way, they are connected because everything is connected. But there is a distinction between the thoughts in your head, that voice in your head, the visualization about the future, and then the visualizations that you have about things that have already happened, and then actual reality, the actual moment itself, the beauty, the aliveness, and the vibrance. And when I say the beauty and the aliveness and the vibrance, these are just words. These are just words. And they don't do any, they can't fully articulate the actual beauty of the moment because it's just the limited human language trying to explain the actual experience of what is happening, which will never happen. We're never going to be able to fully explain the actual experience of what is happening because the experience of what is happening can only be experienced. Right? Imagine explaining to a blind person what a kaleidoscope looks like. Try to tell somebody that has never seen colors what colors look like. Can you do that? It's not possible because you have to experience it. And so in the same way, you got to connect to the present moment and experience it for yourself. And you're never going to be able to understand this through more content. See, what I'm telling you is more content. I'm telling you more content. You're listening to me speak. That's just content. That's just words. It's just visualizations, and it's the human language that is disconnecting you from that moment. All right. And so we don't need to be, trapped in the content. We can actually connect deeper to the experience. But the experience can only be experienced through experience. Okay. And that's a funny play of words right there, but that is really what it is. And there's really no other way for me to articulate what it is that I'm trying to say, because unless I say it in this way, you're going to be trapped in more content. And do you see how tricky this stuff can be? This is why I love what I do, because I really want people to see that there is an aliveness in every moment that cannot be explained with words. And that the moment you connect to this aliveness, you'll know it so deeply for yourself that you won't have to take my word for it. You won't have to believe me, and you won't be able to tell anybody else about it because it's an experience that can only be experienced. And so I want you to understand that this thinking that's going on in our minds doesn't have to be this way, and that there are tools that are accessible to any human being anywhere at any time that are here to guide you, to get you out of that thinking mind and to connect you more deeply to the present moment. There's so many tools. There's videos like this. There's so many books, right? Like the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. There's so many books. There's so many resources. There's so many videos. There's so many enlightened masters. There's so many people that have they dedicated their life purpose to connect to this part of life that is beyond the thinking. And it's just available to all of us, but we don't want to do it because we don't believe that it's possible. You don't believe that it's possible because do you believe that it's possible to actually get rid of the thinking mind? Not 100% of the day, but at least for a majority of the day. If you can't buy into the fact that you can do it for a majority of the day, do you believe that you can actually get glimpses of this throughout the day? Because even if you don't believe me, it's already happened. whether you take my word for it or not, you've already gotten glimpses of this, whether, sometimes you're in nature, you get a little glimpse of reality where you're so connected to the moment that you don't think at all. You don't think anything. And then it doesn't take long before, more content comes in and then interprets the situation after you got that experience of nature, or maybe when you're performing some kind of an art, or maybe when you are talking to somebody and you're deeply connected to that person in that conversation. You might get little glimpses in your day where you're actually not thinking anything. But then it doesn't take long before the content in your mind starts to interpret the situation, starts to think about the situation, starts to label the situation, starts to put all these interpretations. Sometimes we even criticize people, and we have a false interpretation of those people, not seeing them for who they really are beyond the thinking of our mind. Because the thinking in our mind can be really, really tricky. Really, really tricky stuff. Really tricky stuff. And it will deceive you. It will deceive you so much and convince you that there's so many more problems in this moment that just, they simply don't exist. They simply don't exist. They're just illusions of the mind. It's just your mind is trying to convince you that there's more problems than there are. And when I say a word like illusion, that might throw certain people off. But it's not enough for you to understand that it's an illusion through me telling you. The best way is really to get an experience that the content of your mind is completely deceiving you. It's completely deceiving you. Because, once again, I don't think it's normal to be, trapped in the content of your mind the whole day. I don't think it's normal to be consistently worried and fearful and then just always, visualizing the worst case scenarios that usually don't even happen. They don't even happen. Most of the time they don't happen. And if they do happen, it's because you visualized it so much that you almost stepped into a situation that was in alignment with that kind of thinking. And because whatever you focus on, and the thoughts that you have will usually bring you closer to a situation that is in alignment with that kind of thinking. But that's a different video. And so what I want you to know is that the content of your mind should not be taken seriously. There's a time and place to use the content of your mind for practical purposes, right? Like when you want to go do a project of some kind, or create a video, or be an artist, express yourself in some way, talk to somebody, like talk about ideas, and have thoughts that are going to tell you to go do something. This is where the mind is a very practical tool. This is where the mind can be used to actually take action, and will actually help you to get closer with your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. But then most of us don't use the mind in that way. Most of us use the mind in a way where the mind is completely controlling us. And so we're not really using the mind is using us. Right? I got that straight out of the book, Power of Now, straight out of the book. I can't take credit for that saying, because when I read that book, that's when I realized that I was being controlled by my mind. And that most people, unless they understand, this state of consciousness that I'm saying, and then if you realize this for yourself, what you'll find is that very few people have truly understood these teachings, and that most people are living in a consistent state of fear. And then the moment you start to become aware of this, you'll find that it's completely insane. It's completely insane, and it's dysfunctional. Let's just put it that way. And it's not normal. It's not normal, but I don't judge anybody for it, because it's not who they really are. It's just patterns, right? That's why I can forgive people and accept them, because it's not who they really are. It's just a pattern that's going on in their minds. And so it is insane, but it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And the only thing that I can do to, make this better for people is to bring people closer and closer and closer to, this state of consciousness that doesn't involve the thinking. That's all I can do. And then I'm gonna get closer and closer to doing this through my videos. But then during this process, I still have to accept that people are where they are. And so it is insane. It is insane, but it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with this person or there's anything wrong with society. I mean, it is dysfunctional, it is insane, but it is the way it is. And so the best thing that I can offer and suggest is that it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way, and that we can actually escape and break free from the content of our mind. Right? It might sound repetitive, but you might only get this insight when you hear it for the 5th time or for the 10th time. Because you can hear these teachings for your whole life, but then only when you hear it for the 15th time, then it might click for you. Then it might click. And so that's pretty much it, guys. I just want you to know that there is a deeper part of you that can always be accessed in every moment, but that you might be forgetting this part of yourself because you're so trapped in the content of your mind and you're not really allowing yourself to observe the mind rather than, you're really attached to the thoughts that you're thinking. And so when you're very attached to the thoughts that you're thinking, you are, you're not as connected as you could be to everything in life, the experience, the people that you talk to, and the activities that you're doing, and then the passions that you follow. All these things you can be much more deeply connected to if you break free from the content of your mind. And then unless you connect to this part of yourself that is beyond and transcends the content of your mind, you will never feel fulfilled completely. That's the truth. That is the truth. Because if you're consistently living in the unconscious patterns of your mind, you're always going to feel a sense of, dis-ease and impatience, and you're just not going to feel good. You're always going to feel a lack of fulfillment and a lack of, being a lack of fulfillment. Really, that's what it is. You're gonna feel a lack of feeling good because you're so trapped in the content of your mind. But then the moment you realize that you can connect it as part of yourself, now is where the fulfillment really starts, and that you'll feel more fulfilled just being in the moment than being completely stimulated. And unless you access this part of yourself, you will forever feel a lack of fulfillment. So that's all I have for you today. If this video gave you some value, if this video gave you some insights, consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell for the videos that I post every single day. Have yourself a great day, and see you in the next video.